Let's look at tonsils. Tonsils are small masses of lymphoid tissue that are located in the pharynx. The pharynx is the tube that runs posterior to the nasal cavity, oral cavity, and into the throat. It leads into the larynx or your voice box and the esophagus. This lymphoid tissue will also consist of follicles with lymphocytes and macrophages. Tonsils trap and remove bacteria and other foreign materials as they are entering the body through either food, drink, or the air. There are different groups of tonsils. If I have an S, that means it is a pair. There are two of them. The first group is the palatine tonsils, and they are located in the posterior oral cavity at the oral pharynx. If you look at the illustration down at the bottom, you'll see the green arrow, and that green arrow is pointing to a palatine tonsil. The lingual tonsil will be at the base of the tongue, and that's a single tonsil. The pharyngeal tonsil is a single tonsil, and it will be posterior to the nasal cavity in the nasal pharynx. And these are also called the adenoids. Lastly, there are a pair of tonsils called the tubal tonsils, and the tubal tonsils surround the opening into the auditory tubes. The auditory tubes go to the middle ear. Let's look at the structure of the tonsils. The tonsils have an epithelial cover instead of a fibrous connective cover. In addition, invaginations occur, and this is where you have this area that dips down, and these are called tonsillar crypts. The tonsillar crypts are unique to the tonsils. No other lymphoid organ has a crypt like this. And what this does is it allows bacteria or microbes to make their way deeper into the tissue in hopes of attacking them and mounting an immune response early on. You can see here the follicles. And in this case, you should be able to tell me that this is a secondary follicle because you have a germinal center right here, that light colored center, and then the darker area here. So when I ask you what type of lymphoid tissue, you're going to tell me that this is a follicle or a nodule. Let's move on to Peyer's patches. Peyer's patches are going to be part of GALT because they are located in the alimentary canal, specifically in the distal portion of the small intestine, the ileum. They increase in number as you get closer to the large intestine. Looking at this illustration, hopefully you can see here a follicle. So this is the epithelium right in here, the lamina propria here. It looks like this has gone into the submucosa. And then this is that muscularis externa, that outer layer of smooth muscles. The last organ I want to cover is the appendix. It comes off the cecum, which is the first part of the large intestine. Looking at this illustration, you should be able to tell me that this contains follicles. So here's a follicle here. And there's another one. The appendix is an interesting organ. We used to think that it didn't have a function, but we've discovered that in adults, it does have an immune function. It begins to accumulate lymphoid tissue shortly after birth and reaches its peak between your 20s and your 30s. By the time you're 60, though, it has decreased and almost all the lymphoid tissue is gone. It is believed to be important in local immune responses. They used to take the appendix out since they didn't think it had a function, but now they keep it if at all possible. The reason for this is because the appendix can be used in reconstructive surgery if a person has lost their urinary bladder. The appendix can be used to produce or to form a sphincter to help control urine outflow, and a section of the large intestine can be used for the urinary bladder.